The first story comes from a woman I'll call Dana. Dana was 27 at the time this happened. She worked as a transcriptionist from home, remote work, irregular hours, the kind of job where 2 a.m. on a Tuesday feels no different than 2 p.m. on a Saturday. She'd been a member of her local 24-hour gym for about 3 years. A big chain location, you've probably driven past one just like it. The kind with the purple and yellow sign, the rows of cardio machines facing a wall of TVs, the free weights in the back. She liked going late. Between midnight and 3 a.m., she told me, it was peaceful. Sometimes she'd be completely alone in the building, and there was something she actually loved about that. Just her, the weights, the music in her headphones. No one to watch her, no one to wait for a machine. This particular night was a Wednesday, just after 1 a.m. She swiped in, said hi to the overnight employee, a college-aged kid named Marcus who worked the front desk and mostly played games on his phone, and headed to the back section where the free weights were. That's when she noticed him. A man was using the cable machine in the far corner. She registered him the way you register anyone in a near-empty space, just a quick, unconscious scan. He was tall, heavy-set, wearing a gray hoodie with the hood up, which she thought was a little odd given how warm gyms tend to get, but she didn't think much of it. She put her headphones in, started her workout. For the first 20 minutes or so, nothing unusual happened. She moved through her routine, checked her phone between sets, normal night. Then her headphones died. She'd forgotten to charge them. They gave her the little chime, the battery voice, and then silence. She pulled them out, and that's when she realized she could hear him. Not weights clanking, not the normal sounds of someone working out. He was talking. Low, barely audible over the ambient noise of the gym, but she could make out the cadence of it. A long, continuous murmur, like he was reciting something, or reading something. She glanced over. He wasn't looking at a phone. He wasn't looking at anything in the room. His head was slightly bowed, hood still up, and his lips were moving. She told herself he was probably just listening to something through earbuds and mouthing the words. That's the normal explanation. That's what you tell yourself. She went back to her workout. About 10 minutes later, she walked to the water fountain near the front, passing within maybe 15 feet of him on her way. She kept her eyes forward, but in her peripheral vision, she could see that he'd stopped using the cable machine. He was just standing there, facing her direction. She filled her water bottle, walked back. As she passed him again, going the other way, he spoke. Not loud, not aggressive, just casually, like she'd asked him a question and he was answering it. He said, "Long night, Dana." She stopped walking. She turned and looked at him fully for the first time. He was looking back at her now, and she could see his face beneath the hood. Older, maybe late 50s. A face she was absolutely certain she had never seen before in her life. She didn't know him. She was sure of that. "Sorry?" she said. "Do I know you?" He smiled. Not a warm smile. More like the expression of someone who already knows how a conversation is going to go. "You come in every Wednesday," he said. "Usually around this time." Which, okay, that's technically an observation anyone could make if they were a regular. She told herself that. People notice other people. It doesn't have to mean anything. "I haven't seen you here before," she said, careful. "I'm usually over there," he said, and he nodded toward the far corner, the very back of the weight room, where the lighting was dimmer and the mirrors had a slight discoloration to them, like they hadn't been cleaned in a while. She nodded slowly. "Okay, well, you're a Sagittarius," he said. Still the same conversational tone, still smiling. She told me that's the moment her whole body went cold. Not because of the astrology comment specifically, but because of the way he said it, with the same flat certainty as everything else, like he wasn't guessing, like he was telling her something he already knew. She didn't ask how he knew that. She said, "I'm going to go grab my stuff," and she walked, quickly but not running, back toward the main floor where Marcus was at the front desk. She told Marcus what happened. He looked uncomfortable, glanced at his monitor, and said the man had checked in about 40 minutes before she arrived. His name on the system was listed as a guest pass, which meant no permanent account, no address, no photo on file. She asked Marcus to walk with her to get her bag. They went back together. The cable machine was empty. The man was gone. Marcus checked the front. He hadn't swiped out. There was a back emergency exit in the weight room that opened from the inside. No alarm had sounded, which Marcus said was normal because the alarm on that exit had been broken for weeks. Dana got her bag and left. She told me she went home and immediately Googled herself, her full name. And yes, it was out there. Her name attached to a local charity event she'd volunteered at, a neighborhood Facebook group she'd commented in, a fitness forum where her username was her real first name. So she's thought about this a lot. Maybe he was just a weird, socially awkward guy who'd looked her up. Maybe he recognized her from somewhere. Maybe the Sagittarius thing was a lucky guess. Birthdays are public on some social media profiles. Those are the rational explanations, and she knows them. She's run through all of them. But she told me there's something she keeps coming back to. Something she mentioned almost as an afterthought near the end of our conversation. She said that when she and Marcus went back to get her bag, she noticed something on the floor near the cable machine. A small folded piece of paper lying on the mat. She almost didn't pick it up, but she did. She unfolded it. It had her home address on it. She moved 2 months later. She has never been back to that gym. Terrence said he felt a specific kind of cold, slow rage in that moment. The kind that doesn't make you loud, the kind that makes you very, very still. He took out his phone and photographed the camera in place, documenting exactly where it was and what it was pointing at. He texted the photos to himself so there was a timestamp. Then he walked back to the main floor and found the overnight staff member, a woman working the front desk alone, and told her what he'd found. She looked genuinely horrified. She came back to the locker room with him, saw the camera, and immediately called her manager. Her manager called the police. The police arrived about 20 minutes later. 2 officers, a detective not long after. Here's where it gets more complicated. The camera had a local storage card, an SD card, which the detective removed and reviewed on site with a laptop. He wouldn't show Terrence the footage, but he told him the camera had been recording for approximately 4 hours. 4 hours. The gym had been open and people had been using that locker room for 4 hours while that camera sat there recording. The detective asked Terrence if he'd noticed anyone unusual in or near the locker room earlier in the evening. Terrence thought about it. He mentioned one person, a man who'd been in the locker room when Terrence first arrived, around 11:30. He was already in there when Terrence walked in, doing nothing in particular, just standing at one of the lockers that happened to be near the far end, near where the camera was later found. Terrence hadn't thought anything of it at the time, but thinking back, the man hadn't appeared to actually be using that locker. He was just lingering. The man had left the locker room about 2 minutes after Terrence arrived. The gym had security cameras at the entrance and on the main floor. The police reviewed the footage. They identified the man. He had a membership. His information was on file. I'll tell you what Terrence told me about what came after, because this part matters. The man was arrested. It came out during the investigation that he had done this before at 2 other gyms in the same city under different membership names. The police found footage on his devices, multiple victims recorded without consent over a period of several years. Terrence was never shown any footage from the camera he found, and he's grateful for that. But he told me something that stayed with me. He said he almost didn't look at it first noticed the device, his initial instinct was to assume it was some kind of gym equipment. A sensor, maybe, or a Bluetooth speaker someone had left. He said he stood there for almost a full minute, talking himself in and out of it. And he said, "What if I'd just gone and showered? I keep thinking about that. What if I'd just assumed it was nothing?" He goes to a different gym now, a different chain. He checks the locker room every single time before he puts anything down. He asked me to include that in the story. He said if it makes one person look twice, actually look, then it was worth telling. For what it's worth, if you're watching this and you use a public locker room, look for small black devices. Look at vents, at the corners of lockers, at hooks on the back of stall doors. A camera the size of a matchbox can sit in plain sight for hours before anyone notices. Or, as we just heard, it can sit there for 4 hours and never be noticed at all. The third story is the one I've thought about the most. Not because it's the most overtly frightening, it might actually be the quietest of the three. But there's something at the center of it that I find genuinely difficult to shake. This account comes from a man I'll call Ryan. He was 32 when this happened. He works in logistics. Practical guy. Self-described skeptic. He went out of his way to tell me, multiple times, that he is not someone who believes in the paranormal, has never had any kind of unexplained experience before this, and went into telling me this story still not entirely sure what to make of it. I appreciated that. I find those kinds of stories tend to be the most honest ones. Ryan was a member of a small 24-hour fitness center in a suburban area. One location, independently owned, been in business for about 15 years. Around 150 members. The owner, a retired physical therapist named Carl, was often there in person during morning hours, but the late-night operation ran on an automated access system. Keycard entry, no staff after 10 p.m. Ryan regularly went in around 11 p.m. or midnight after his shift ended. He liked the solitude. He was usually alone or close to it. This particular night was a Friday, about a year and a half ago. He arrived at 11:20 p.m., swiped his card. The door clicked open, and he walked in. And there was a man already in there. Now, this wasn't unusual by itself. Other members used the late hours too. Ryan had crossed paths with a handful of regulars over his time there, but he didn't recognize this man. The man was sitting on one of the benches by the free weights, not doing anything. Not stretching, not resting between sets. Just sitting there, very still, facing the mirror. He was dressed oddly for the gym. Dark slacks, like work pants. A plain white button-up shirt. No gym bag that Ryan could see. No water bottle. No headphones. Ryan said hello. The man looked up and nodded once, slowly. Didn't smile. Didn't speak. Ryan shrugged it off. He went to the treadmill to warm up. He ran for about 15 minutes. During that time, he kept the man in his peripheral vision. Not in a paranoid way, just because there wasn't much else to look at and the man was, frankly, unusual. The man didn't move for the entire 15 minutes, just sat there on the bench. Occasionally, he would look at the mirror. Occasionally down at the floor. When Ryan moved to the weights, he ended up closer to the man, maybe 10 feet away. And this time Ryan spoke to him directly. "You a regular here?" he asked. The man looked at him for a moment. Then he said, "I used to be." His voice was odd. Ryan struggled to describe it when we talked. He said it wasn't threatening, wasn't aggressive, just flat. Like someone going through the motions of a conversation while thinking about something else entirely. "Used to be?" Ryan said. The man nodded slowly. "Long
short answers, never asked Ryan anything, never initiated. Eventually, Ryan put his headphones in and focused on his workout. He was there for about another hour. He went through his sets, moved around the floor, ended with some stretching near the entrance.
The whole time, the man didn't move from that bench. At the end of his session, around 12:45 a.m., Ryan went to grab his bag near the door. He glanced over one last time. The bench was empty. He hadn't heard the door. The door at this gym made a distinct magnetic lock sound when it opened, a solid, heavy clunk that carried across the whole building. He hadn't heard it. He checked the bathroom, empty. The back of the weight room, empty. There was no other exit. The gym was a converted commercial space, one entrance, one emergency fire exit in the very back of the cardio section. Ryan walked over to it. The handlebar was cold. The door was sealed. The small adhesive tamper strip along the edge, which Carl used to monitor if the emergency exit had been opened, was intact. Ryan stood there for a moment in the empty gym. Then he went home. The next morning, he called Carl, the gym owner. He described the man and asked if he recognized the description. Older, heavy-set, dark slacks, white button-down shirt, no bag. Carl was quiet for a moment. Then he asked Ryan, "What time did you say this was?" Ryan told him. Carl asked him to come by the gym so he could show him something. When Ryan arrived, Carl pulled up the automated entry log, a digital record of every keycard swipe going in and out of the gym. It logged the card number, the name attached to the card, and the timestamp. For the time Ryan was in the gym, 11:20 p.m. to 12:46 a.m., there was only one entry. Ryan's. One entry in. No entry out. Ryan looked at the log. He looked at Carl. Carl looked back at him. There was no record of anyone else entering the gym that night. The automated system should have logged every door open. The system showed nothing. Ryan pushed further. He asked if there was any way someone could get in without triggering the log. A mechanical key, a maintenance override, anything like that. Carl said no. The lock was fully electronic. The only way in was a valid, active membership keycard, and the system logged every single use without exception. Ryan asked if Carl could search for any past member who fit the description. Older, the kind of member who might say they used to come there. Carl looked through his records, pulled up former members who'd let their memberships lapse. He found one that gave him pause. I want to be careful here because this is where the story enters territory I genuinely can't verify, and Ryan knows that, and Carl knows that. I'm telling you what Ryan told me, and I'm telling you that Ryan is not someone who embellishes things. Make of it what you will. The member Carl found had been registered at the gym for about 6 years, some time back. He was a regular, apparently. Older, stocky build. Carl recognized the description as Ryan described it. His membership had lapsed, not because he moved, not because he canceled. He had died, about 2 years before that night. A cardiac event, alone at home, late at night. Ryan told me he sat with that for a while. He's not a believer in ghosts. He told me he still isn't, technically. He thinks there's probably some explanation, a glitch in the door log, a malfunctioning sensor, something that caused the system to fail to record an entry that did happen. He thinks that. He said he genuinely tries to believe that. But then he told me the last part of the story, and he said this is the part he's never been able to fully explain away, even to himself. He said, when he first walked into the gym that night, before he noticed the man on the bench, he noticed something else.
Something small that he'd registered and then immediately forgotten, the way you forget small things until later, when the context changes and you remember it differently. There was a gym bag sitting by the front door. A small, black bag, the kind every gym member carries. It had a name written on the tag in marker, the way you label your belongings when you're worried about mix-ups. Ryan didn't think anything of it. Someone probably left it behind. He walked past it. He told me, on the way out, at 12:46 a.m., after finding the man gone, after checking the exits, after standing alone in the quiet gym, he walked past the door. The bag was gone too. He never told Carl about the bag. He said he doesn't know why. He just didn't. He still has a membership at that gym. He still goes late at night. He hasn't seen the man again, but he told me he's never sat on that bench.